I wonder sometimes, how do people that are chronically ill read some of these healing texts? I wonder if they make them feel guilty because they're sick. I wonder if it makes them feel angry or frustrated. I've never been chronically ill. The worst thing that I've had to deal with on a regular basis is that I really don't have good teeth. Both my parents had false teeth, and my wife has been healthy and I've been healthy. That's those are real blessings that I don't take. I don't take them for granted. I don't ignore the fact that I'm experiencing something that not everybody gets to experience. And so I wonder, and this would be actually a pretty fruitful area of conversation for me, how does this text, if you are chronically ill, and I have a friend right now who is embarking on her third round of chemo, and said to me recently that the cancer's back, it's back with a vengeance, and she is not sure she's going to make it this time. I wonder how healing texts impact my friend. And she obviously didn't want to talk too much a couple of weeks ago when she made contact about the cancer's return. That's okay. There's a time and a place for everything, and I think we'll have a time to discuss this a little bit more. But it's one thing when someone gets better, but sometimes we don't. And how do these texts impact that? How do I preserve somebody's dignity in the middle of that? How do I preserve justice in the middle of that? How do I approach the weak or the sick in a way that values personhood for all, both individually as an individual created in the image of God, or corporately as we are created in the image of God? And how is our corporate solidarity, how does that work with the weak and the sick? How does it work with the disabled? How do I process that as a person of faith and as an interpreter of the Bible that wants to say, well, it's obvious that Jesus does do these things as the writers of the Gospels tell us, and I would want people to be in health, but it's not a situation where I want those who don't experience health to feel marginalized or to feel excluded because for some reason, a genetic abnormality has caused them to struggle with a disease or a chronic illness that regularly impacts their health. And then we could talk about those who deal with psychological or emotional issues. Sometimes that may be rooted in brain chemistry, but they may be rooted in injuries that they've sustained. We have whole swaths of people coming back from wartime who are dealing, large swaths of the military community that are dealing, some more, some less, with PTSD. Well, how do I value the person who responds because of a head injury in anger, right, or in paranoia? How do I respond to that person knowing that most of the time there's sanity, but that sometimes that line between the real and the unreal is blurred. And I've got some experience in this. Let me tell you, I'm not saying this without having thought about this a lot because of personal experience. And that's all I'll say. But how do I maintain that allegiance to personhood and value, and how do I encourage? How do I serve in whatever relationship role that I have? How do I serve as the one like these bearers of the paralytic to Jesus? How do I serve as the one who's encouraging? How do I serve as the one who bears another's burdens? And I'm not sure how to do that all the time. And I think there's some contexts in which I do that better. I think there's some contexts in which I do it worse. I think that in the line of work that you're in, that you face on a daily basis, it's one thing to face it with friends or family. It's another thing to face it with patients with whom your only relationship is as a part of the healthcare team. These are important questions, and I just because people are different, I suspect that various ones of you are going to have different approaches. Is there a right and a wrong? There's a different, but right and wrong, that's hard to say. My guides, for what it's worth, are kind of twofold. One guide would be for the religious among us, particularly the Christian religious among us, would be, how does my action reflect loving God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength, and loving my neighbor as myself? For those that do not embrace Christian religion, I guess I'd retreat to the golden rule, and it would be, how do I want to be treated? And how do I then treat others in a way that protects them, that does justice to them, that acts righteously with them, or does right by them, that protects their humanity and their dignity by protecting confidentiality, working well as part of a team, patient privacy. How do I do all of that? And it might vary from day to day. So maybe some of this conversation about disability and conversation about this healing text makes us think through that in a way that where you can see, as we started in one of the earlier videos, that we're really trying to do faith integration. We're trying to integrate Christian faith, in particular, Christian scripture, with, in this case, healthcare, but it could be psychology, it could be criminal justice, it could be business, it could be any number of academic areas as we, at Azusa Pacific University, as students at Azusa Pacific University, as we endeavor to do some faith integration. So those are some thoughts about provisions 3 and 4, about this particular text in Luke 5, that I hope helps you think about both your spirituality, your development of your ethics in a healthcare context and environment. All right, I'll see you next week.